Hello, everyone. Here we are again for another Mavens Do It Better podcast, where we interview extraordinary experts that bring a light to our world. And I'm so thrilled to have Dave Banks on today. We met a while ago now. He's an award-winning photographer and social activist, and I could go on and on and on, but Dave, say hey. So.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Heather. I'm sorry it's taking so long to get to this point.
That's okay. You know what? I was like, I'm not going to let it go because I think he's so neat. So, well, I'm coming to us today. I don't even know where this beautiful picture is, but I just moved, and so I'm surrounded by boxes. So I put up a background, and so Dave, and I'm in Marina Del Rey at my HQ. Where are you?
I'm in Big Bear City. I'm just east of the lake in Big Bear,
Okay.
and I too just moved. I bought the cabin in November, and the boxes are on the other side of the camera. You can't see.
Perfect. I know. I was like, yeah. No, that's not good. You can't.
With the quarantine, what else do I got to do? Well, I got to put things up. I got to.
Right. Yes. I know. Yeah. So how are you doing? I mean, it's so interesting. You know, in this time we're dealing with COVID-19 and in quarantine, shelter in place, stay at home, and so you're in Big Bear and you just moved. So you are unpacking, I would assume. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually doing fine. I have my two dogs. They're both rescued dogs. Frank, named after Frank Sinatra, and Augie, named after Ogden Nash, the poet.
Oh, so, cool.
Yeah, we're a literary household here.
Fantastic. Yes, that's great. Yeah, no, I know. It's a wild time, and big love to everybody out here who's listening, and hope everybody's staying safe and doing well. But it's also about keeping on, really. You know, having good conversations and telling stories, and that's the whole point of the podcast. So I appreciate you being on today to have us talk about you and your story a little bit. So yeah, you're welcome. We met at the Women's March a couple years ago, and that was super cool. And he's hanging around and taking photos, and I was like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And so we got to talking. And will you tell everybody what you were?
Well, I volunteer with the Feminist Majority Foundation in Hollywood or in Los Angeles.
Right.
And since I'm somewhat retired, and I'm not really retired, I've taken my skill set and I use it as a social activist, and that's what I do. So, and I got involved with them only because I can really identify with women. My mom was a single mom in the 1950s, and so it presented itself to me the struggles that she went through in that period of time. And she later became an executive, one of the first executive women for Pepsi-Cola in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Wow.
And I would hear her come home and tell stories. Well, at that time, she had remarried the best dad I could ever want, Paul. And so I knew the struggles. And so I've always been conscious of what women have to go through, especially in business, the harassment and all of that. So I decided to volunteer, and that's how it came about. And so anytime they need any photographs or whatever, I even help them put together the displays at the gala that they have once a year. So, it's whatever you need me to do, I'm there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so I do that, and I'll recruit other people to come in. I'm involved in the news and entertainment business in Hollywood, so I know a lot of PAs, production assistants. And so I would say, hey, I'll pay you, but I want you to be involved with this.
Right.
Because what we do for a living is really a blessing. So let's pass it on to other people, and you can volunteer, and I'll help pay for it, pay for your time and all that. So I've upstarted some photographers, production assistants, and all that. So, and I keep an eye out for people because I genuinely love people.
Yeah, that's so cool. And we were talking before, and you'd said that you were helping with the photo archives for, is it Ms. Magazine?
Yeah, the Feminist Foundation owns or runs Ms. Magazine.
Yeah.
So their editor, photo editor and editor is in DC. And so they would call me and say, do you have this? And so I have a Dropbox. I put the images or the video in the Dropbox, send them an invitation, they use it. And so, and I get these spreads, you open it up and there's a nice spread.
Ah, that's so cool.
So I try to utilize the social media as much as I can with limited knowledge. It's like, am I doing this right? I don't know.
You're great. It's Dave Banks Media, right? Yeah, that's
my website, davebanksmedia.com or in Banks. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's, it's Instagram, and I was on Facebook, but I have a problem with Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
My apologies, and that is, I don't like my information being sold. I don't want advertisers or content and that type of thing. So I know that Instagram is owned by Facebook. I'm just putting images up. That's all I'm doing. Right. And I write these little stories called Life in the City of Angels.
Yeah.
That's little stories about different people that I run into because the culture here is so mixed with cultures, and I just find that fascinating. And I spent 17 years on and off in the Middle East doing news and documentaries.
Right.
I covered the war in Afghanistan in 2002 as a solo journalist, ended up working for the Department of Defense, finding stories for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, I just find that the cultures and the people are much more interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel, and I used to work for ABC Network back in the day when Sam Donaldson was the real news.
Yeah.
At ABC Network News, and I did work for them.
Uh-huh.
And it's so lacking nowadays.
Yeah.
Real news. And that really bothers me. So I try to do just like
I know. So you're contributing. I know. So it's Dave Banks Media on Instagram. I love the Life in the City of Angels. And so there's the photos, and he writes little short stories about who they were, and they're so great. It's so fun.
Everybody has a philosophy for living and that type of thing, which is what my blog is exposure and otherworldly morsels.
Yes.
And so there's a little more detail in that. And it's actually, Life in the City of Angels is my second book. I got published by a UK publisher for Cue the Camels. Cue, C-U-E, as the stage manager with Cue the actors. So it's Cue the Camels. And they're just little different chapters, little different stories. And if you don't mind me kind of promoting this, even though I don't.
That's what this is about, Dave. Absolutely. We want to tell everybody about all the cool things you have on the world. So yes, do it. Yeah.
So I had this publisher in the UK. Well, I ended up where I had to get I guess they're called a barrister or a lawyer in the UK to get out of contract because they wouldn't distribute in America.
Oh.
Because they felt that the distributor in America was asking for too much money. So, and I just, so I'm rewriting the book, adding more chapters. But one of the things, and we want to talk about technology, is I put in QR codes at the end of some of the chapters.
Okay.
So after you read the chapter, you could take your phone, scan it, and it would take you to a video of what I just wrote about so that you know that I wasn't lying.
There's no fake whatever here. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I thought that kind of innovation would really be picked up, but it hasn't yet. But, I'm patient. But I've got 3 books that I'm working on. Cue the Camels, Life in the City of Angels, and Atlantis of the Sands, which was a foot race that I covered across the Sahara Desert, which was really interesting. And the people and the characters, and I love this. And I have video of all of that. And so in that QR code at the end, so that was.
You must have the largest Dropbox ever. Right.
Well, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
No, I got a few things on it,
Yeah. No, but I mean, when did you take your first photo? How old were you? And what kind of camera?
I just posted on it. Okay, so my first camera was a box camera, an Ansco box camera that my grandmother gave me. There
Oh,
is a photo of me on my Instagram,
oh my
I
goodness.
think in Tennessee or somewhere, and I'm standing there and I've got my little box camera. And when
Oh,
I
I
went,
got it.
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
and that kind of changed my life because I have a learning disability,
Okay.
dyslexia.
Oh,
Now, in the late 50s and then there's during the 60s, nobody really knew what dyslexia was.
mhm.
And so I had to really, I really struggled. But I went to school in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and went to Will Rogers High School, Will on the Hill. And it's really interesting because there's always that one teacher that we can all say really changed things. It was my senior year. I was a DF student because I just couldn't write. And
Right.
here I'm writing books and I got published. But anyway, so Mrs. Ratcliffe, who's no longer with us, was the English teacher. And she knew that I was bright, but she knew that I had a learning disability. And my mom really helped me a lot. She would hire a cab to come and get me at school and drive me to Tulsa University to a reading lab
Oh,
to
wow.
figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
So Mrs. Ratcliffe let me film my papers.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I went from 8mm to super 8mm, and I'd bring my films, a projector, and an album so I could narrate over it.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And it was just that one teacher, that just made everything change to everything. So
Yeah, those are those moments. We were talking a little bit before about that. It's like those people, but there are all kinds of things, right? It's that one person that just like you were
yeah,
going one way and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, okay,
right,
right on. That's super cool.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. You have, there's so many. So you're, so I want to go back to your Sam Donaldson comment about news and stuff. So for you, when you were saying that, will you expand on that a little bit about sort of the real news and about like that kind of reporting? Like, will you talk about what you mean by that?
Yeah, I'll have a perfect example for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Access Oil Pipeline protest, North Dakota, Standing Rock.
Yep.
Very, very little any national attention to what was going on. That access pipeline is going over the waterway, which basically is the water for several cities downriver.
Right.
And nobody was covering it. And then when I saw what happened with the young woman conducting the interview getting hit with a rubber bullet, I went there. So while I'm there, I was there for 2 months,
Wow.
living out of my Kia.
Wow.
Oh, I got to tell you, a Kia Sorento is probably the best car I ever bought. Anyway, so
They run like stamps, right?
and I'm 6'1", put the seats out. I could actually sleep in it, and I got through 2 blizzards there.
Wow.
And so I'm there, and then I think it was CNN sent a crew with a correspondent there.
Okay.
They get there. Well, there's 20,000 people in Oseti campground.
Mhm.
There is thousands of veterans coming to protect the water protectors. They're not protesters. They're water protectors.
Yep.
And the story that they came up with was what was going on at Media Hill, which is where I was parked because it was the highest point I could get 2 bars on my cell phone to upload things.
Right.
And they were doing a story about how we were generating power by using this bicycle. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. You come out here all the way from New York City
Yeah.
to do a story, and you're sitting here on a bicycle talking about how you're getting power for the people here to charge their phones, when the real story is down there by Backwater Bridge.
Yeah.
They hosed with fire hoses and were shooting people with rubber bullets.
Wow.
That's the story, and you're doing this.
Right.
That's a perfect example.
Right.
The other problem I have, because I covered the Middle East for so many years, is whatever happens in the Middle East directly affects us here.
Yeah.
We have hardly any coverage of that at all.
Right.
And so because of the internet, I'm able to go to French 24, which is English-speaking news, BBC,
Mhm.
Al Jazeera, I'll catch whatever news I can get that's not so concentrated on what the Kardashians are doing. So that's the fear that I have, is that the news is not the news anymore. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed, Walter Cronkite back in my day, I'm from old school.
I remember Walter Cronkite.
He would say tonight's news. Then at the end, that's the way it is. And that's how he arted. If you watch the news today, whether CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they don't say news. They say on our show tonight. It's a show. So it's a word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a big difference that they've gone through with giving it the title of news. My boys are barking now.
Oh, cuties.
Yeah. I'll turn.
Hello. Oh my goodness.
That's Augie.
That's so cute. Fun.
So.
Yeah, no, that, you know what, that words are important, right? The words have weight. Words, when we say them out loud, go in the universe and do things and all of that. And you're right. They do say show and not news.
Yeah, they don't say the news. Yeah.
Huh. That's a big distinction, I think, for sure.
It is for me. I don't know if other people catch it. I don't know if other people really care. I just know that there may be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
That they know subconsciously, that the public knows that they're not getting real news. If you go to MSNBC, which I watch, I'll admit it, and it is heavily political. I mean, it's like, well, but it's truth. But it's all about politics and what's happening in the country, about Trump and everything. But there's this world over here that they're not talking about or discussing.
Yeah.
And I wish they would integrate more about what's going on. It's basically like sports radio.
Yeah.
It's all about the stats, the players, the trades, and all that. Well, now we've got political radio shows, basically.
Yeah.
So but there's this world outside of America.
Yeah.
And having traveled so much all over Europe and the Middle East, I just find it, I'm almost lost for words, that people aren't aware of what's happening in the world that's around us. So that's one of the big failings that I've seen. I think Vice, the New York Times Weekly, that show that they have, those are really good stories. I mean, great stories. They just don't have that mass appeal, I guess. But sometimes, we have to take medicine that we really don't want. And I think news should be the same way, that sometimes you just got to present it and say, this is the way it was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's a bit myopic for sure. Very tunnel vision. I have to ask you, because I saw it on your arm, you have a beautiful compass tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what that is? I was like, oh, I saw that.
That's basically because I travel so much, and I even have a compass on my watch.
Oh, yeah.
And people think it's so weird, and that's okay. But if I'm out shooting stills, I want to know where the sun's rising. I want to know where it's setting. Mm-hmm. So it helps me with the lighting. I don't, and so it really helps. But I've also found that having this, when I want to take candid shots of people, I don't want them staged. At first, I'll go here, and what they do is they look directly at this and not into the lens of the camera, which I think is very effective.
Yeah.
And what's he got a compass on it? And so it creates a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'll go, well, where have all you been? Well, then I'll go, well, I'm working on my other, and I'll have all the passports.
Wow.
And
awesome.
So.
Oh, will you show it up again? Because I was talking here, so get the camera. You talk.
Oh, well, this is the Middle East. I'm not finished with the tattoos, but it's all passports.
Wow.
As the crow flies. It's such an Okie-ism, isn't it?
I love it. I know I say things like, "Oh my goodness," and "whoopsie doodle" all the time. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Some a friend of mine was like, "You sound like a '50s housewife sometimes." I'm like, "Whatever." Like, who cares, you know? But
yeah.
it's so
So,
cute. I love it. No,
yeah,
that's so.
and
I'm so glad I spied that.
yeah, I think there's another, and there's a little motive behind this. My mom, as you know, Heather, it has severe dementia. I actually say that it's Alzheimer's because sometimes she just doesn't know who I am. She's 94 years old. She's in hospice at this moment, and uh, I noticed her dementia in the early stages when she was still um, lucid, and I got power of attorney. Thank God I did it at that time. And it just made me think about my own life. And because uh, I have good genes and my family lives a long time. And if I start losing my mind and I can't remember, I can always look at my tattoos and go, oh, yeah, that's right. I used to do that.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know that's just a little motive, I think, behind the tattoos. So.
Yeah, I love them. They're absolutely gorgeous. That's so fun. I'm so glad yeah, I'm glad I spied that. Well, let's talk about the Middle East a little bit because I'm like, what was your first trip and how did that all come about? Because that's kind of fairly intense, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
uh,
You know?
it actually, I kind of fell into it. When I was with ABC Network, I was doing Why World of Sports, which some of the older viewers probably remember those days of Why World of Sports, which was sports that didn't involve a ball.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay.
So I was doing mountain climbing, I was doing mountaineering, and and I'm an old rock climber. I don't do it much anymore. Well, I don't do it at all. Let me just be honest about it. And you know, I've climbed Yosemite, Red Rocks. I mean, all over the West. And so I would get these gigs. Well, I left ABC in 1985, but I had the skill set other than just pointing a camera and finding stories. And so it kind of came, well, you know, who can we get to go over the Middle East and do this? You know, they have to be self-sufficient. They got to do this and be able to do this. Oh, you know, Dave Banks will do it because he does all this other stuff. And I just sort of kind of fell into it that way.
Hmm.
And, and that's how I ended up in Afghanistan in 2002.
Oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
there's a photo on my Instagram and on my of me dressed as a Pashtun, and I drive a little white Toyota pickup around the country before it went crazy.
Yeah. I would assume so. How dangerous was it? Did you ever were there like close calls for you
I,
and stuff that you will want to talk about or whatever? But
well,
'cause-
I don't mind. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I got diagnosed. I got off the road in 2004,
yeah,
and I was diagnosed by my physician that I had PTSD. Because what happens is you have an accumulation,
right,
not just one event. One event can set it off or release it in a sense. And so I went to therapy. I've been clean and sober. May 25th will be 35 years, so I couldn't self-lubricate.
yeah. Well, good for you. So, yeah,
And I knew that because my sobriety is incredibly important to me. And I went to therapy and I did a lot of writing. I would fill up spiral notebooks, front page, back page. It was a wonderful book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
I love that book. Yes.
Okay, you know the morning pages, man.
Yep.
And
They
with
rock.
that and the therapy and going to 12-step meetings, I was able to deal with it.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, but I think that the dangerous parts, I didn't. There's a psychological thing that happens when I have my 35 millimeter or my digital camera.
Right. Okay.
Okay, there or a beta cam or a video camera or whatever, or
Mm.
you know, have my notebook out and I'm finding names and that type of thing. It's being given the opportunity to record history.
Yeah.
It's not an adrenaline drug. I'm not an adrenaline junkie.
Mm.
I just feel compelled that I have an opportunity to record history, and that is really freaking important to me. Now, I'm at that age where I think about my legacy, Well, you know what? I'm pretty okay with what the legacy is because I have been active about it for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And whether I'm donating time, money, whatever.
Mhm.
And so it's what I'm going to leave behind to my next generation.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I know. You're the when we chatted, just you know, your passion and your heart. Just I was like, this guy is super cool. And I was just so interested in what
yeah.
you're doing. So, and it's you know, it emanates off you, and that's neat, you know. And
Well,
so,
it's
yeah,
just
and learning about you too, I was like, oh my goodness, wow. So,
well, it's I mean, I've been lucky, really. I've been blessed. I mean, I'm a kid with a learning disability with a high school education from Oklahoma. Now, how do but there's now this. There's a certain work ethic that we have where we grew up.
mhm. Yeah,
My dad used to say, if you don't show up 15 minutes early, you're late. And so I'm the first one there and the last one to leave because that's just the way I was brought up, and I
yeah.
take that responsibility.
Yeah, my Midwestern, same, you know, work ethic, be on time. And, you
Mhm.
know, like, and, you know, my mother would, I mean, my room was never a mess. You know, I think she's worn out like 15 vacuum cleaners in her life. And like, you know, it's just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
it's
my
like,
vacuum cleaner's right down the hall there, so I'm right.
right? I know. It's driving me a little bananas that I can't like quite put things away right now because I'm so
Right.
busy with work.
Yeah.
But
Well, it certainly prepared me to be single. Let me tell you, I keep a pretty decent, clean place here. I mean, I got to tell you, even with the boys running around.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. So so you also do music and performance photography too. And so I have a theater degree and a theater background. And so I was looking through your stuff. Will you talk about what you've done in those realms as well? Because you've
Uh,
done so
yeah,
much. Yeah.
I've shot probably when I came here in 1975. I was fortunate at the right place at the right time to get on with ABC Network. As a
Right.
result of that, I was able to do shows like, and some of the people probably won't know what this is, but Lawrence Welk.
I use Lawrence Welk with my grandmother. I watched it religiously with her.
So
Mhm.
I ended up shooting that American Bandstand.
Oh my
So
goodness.
you name any group, and I'll tell you that, yes, I photographed them. I shot them in the studio. I've done American Music Awards. I've done, you name it. I've done almost every award show you can think of. And again, that gave me the money to go out and do my activism. And
Right.
so, and a lot of people at the time, for instance, I was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno when
Oh,
I was doing coverage in the Middle East and
okay.
doing Afghanistan. Nobody at the show knew what I was doing.
Hmm.
So when I would come back all beat up and sunburned, and Jay, who wrote the foreword to my book, Hughes
Oh,
Camels, always thought, hey, where's Dave? and and the stage manager Mike would say, well, he's freelance, he can book out and he'll come back. Oh, okay, because I have a very audible laugh, and I think that's why he missed me. But Jay always thought I was out in Pacoima shooting a story about a new dog run or something. I mean, nobody knew until I actually got off the road and the book came out that I was doing all this other stuff.
wow.
And the music part of it is I was with U2 Zoo Tour, and I shot that tour.
Oh,
I've
wow.
done just about every group you can think of. I mean, it's just, it's too many to even.
What sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But in my travels, I collect. I go to bazaars. I go to markets. I'll buy these CDs. One of my tricks that I learned early about traveling in the Middle East, I had an extensive shoot in Egypt, and I was doing a bunch of stuff for History Channel
Mm.
and all these documentaries, archaeology, which I love. And before I went, I looked up who was the most popular singer in Egypt at the time, and it was a gentleman by the name of Amri Dia,
Mm.
and he did a song called Habibi.
Okay.
And so I learned the song phonetically before I got to Egypt. And so I get to Egypt, and we've got, and again, old analog technology. I have ammo cases everywhere of gear. And so we're loading up, and I got this van tram, with the painting of the pharaohs and the, you know, Egyptian script on it and all that, just pointing out, hey, there's a tourist in here, you know.
Right.
And so the driver, we were going to the White Desert, and we were driving through Middle Egypt, and he made his own tapes. He put his tape in. I'm sitting in the back. There's like 5 guys, Egyptian, big burly guys, barrel chested, you know, the beards, you know, smoking Egyptian Cleopatra cigarettes. I kept one of the packs because I just thought that was kind of cool design. And he puts this tape in, and guess what song it was? It was Amri Dia singing Habibi. I stand up in the back and I started singing as loud as I could with Amri Dia. And the driver almost, I mean, he's like looking in the mirror. He swerves, almost hits a car. The guy in the front seat smoking a cigarette turned around and the cigarette dropped out of his mouth and just going, oh, there's this giant white guy in the back and he's singing our song. And at that moment, we became brothers.
Of course.
And so
Smart.
it, you know, and after the end of the shoot, they took me back to Cairo and I was unloaded, got everything packed, and they kind of disappeared. They came back and they gave me a water pipe to take home because we would spend the evenings smoking apple tobacco, drinking green tea, and watching Arab soap operas. And I was learning Arabic a little bit at that time. And so, and they were crying because I was leaving.
Aww.
You know, and I've always said, and I've written this, that, you know, music is really the needle and thread that sews us together as humans. And it is so true. It is so true.
Absolutely. That's such a cool story. It's our universal language, right?
Yeah, it is. You know, Anthony Bourdain, it was food. But look what he did. Look what the stories. Now that is real storytelling. That is real journalism, because they're sitting over a dinner and they're talking about what is happening in their country at that moment and how it's affecting that family.
Yeah.
Because these big issues are so abstract to the general public.
Yeah.
It needs a personal story so people can relate to it. And news organizations nowadays don't understand that at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think we're longing for it. I don't know, I read this really interesting article about, you know, like what's going to happen next, you know, like, are we going to, there's a quote in it that calls this the great pause. And it's like, are we going to just go back to exactly the way it was? We won't be able to, but we have choices to make here, I think, you know?
Yes, we do. We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
I'm very optimistic. I think this is going to motivate a lot of people not to be, you know, so lazy, which I think is a good word to use for it, because they're just darn lazy and get involved because it's inconvenient. And that's another thing I think that, you know, and this is my own political statement, you know, guys don't email me because I'm not going to read it, but, you know, we need a national holiday. Why not make President's Day a voting day? Period. Everybody. I mean, anyway, I don't want to start.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. I think that lazy. I also think that, you know, it's noisy. We go at a pace that is so intense, you know, that, you know, this, you know, some people, you know, it's like I have friends that are like, oh, I'm bored or this, or, you know, and, you know, it's like finding what to do with your time. It's like, how do you choose to spend your time? Time is energy, time is money, time is everything, right? You don't get time or good health back.
Right. I'm working on a story now that I've been wanting to do for a while in Los Angeles. And I just find it so interesting, and the contrast in this story is so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this story about these burlesque performers in Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
Okay. These burlesque performers are young women of all shapes and sizes. They're proud of who they're doing, who they are, what they do for a living. I think of it as an art form. It's performance art. Sometimes the satire, political satire, is hilarious. And so when this whole quarantine started, guess what they're doing? They're making masks.
Yeah.
They're making masks.
Yeah. Because they
And
probably sew their own costumes all the time, right?
yeah, because they're doing their own costumes. So I contacted one of them. Her name is Lola Leminx.
Okay.
Her husband is Aaron, who's a puppeteer.
Oh,
And
cool.
they're good people.
Yeah.
And I said, I need to order some because I want to send them to where my mom is because it's in Oklahoma. They probably don't have a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
So I ordered two dozen masks that she made and sent them to them. And they sent me back photographs, text photos from the memory care center. So they, in a way, they're on their own activists.
Yeah.
And so.
That's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the first Miss Exotic World that was in Los
In
Angeles.
Nevada? Was it? Oh, no. In.
No, I'm sorry, Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yes.
Miss Exotic World. This was like 2006, maybe?
Yeah.
And it was Margaret Cho and Elvez
Uh-huh.
were the hosts of that. And so, yeah, I have lots of friends in the burlesque
Right.
scene,
Right.
and I
Right.
love it.
Right.
It's such an art form.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is an art form, and they use it politically, which
Yeah.
I love because that's what they were doing in ancient Greece.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea until I started researching this.
Right.
And so, I've been to the museum in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Go to the shows here, and there's been a huge renaissance here in Los Angeles for this. And if you talk to the women and you get to know them, and there's male performers as well, which the women in the audience absolutely go nuts over.
Yeah. Boylesque, right?
I'm sorry?
Boylesque.
Oh yeah, boylesque. That's it. and it's just, but these are really good people, but they have a passion.
Yeah.
But I remember one time the host came out and she had written the phone number to the local congressman on her stomach. And I just go,
Bringing it.
Yeah. You can't make these. No Hollywood writer could make some of this stuff up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, it's a tight group. I mean, they take care of each other. You know?
Yeah, that's cool. Where do they perform mostly?
The El Cid is the one I've been going to. It's once a month at the El Cid, and it's called Foodies and Boobies.
Okay.
Ginger Lee Bell. You've got to look up Ginger Lee Bell.
Okay. That sounds familiar.
She's medium height but round, but she is the sweetest thing, and she pulls it off, and it's just amazing the honesty that's within that whole community.
Yeah.
In each other because they help each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's like the military, leave no man behind.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same way, and nobody knows about it, and I just find that interesting.
Yeah. I've met a lot of Miss Indigo Blue is in Seattle, and I've met a ton of them. Dirty Martini and
yes.
And Bob from New York. You know, like they're great, and it's so creative. I mean, a gal came out one time and she was dressed as a hula dancer, you know, the little hula dancers you get that you stick on your whatever. And literally she came out and they pushed her out and she was on this thing and she clicked this thing and the lamp turned on. And I was like, and it was huge. And I was like, this is amazing. And then they like put on some, you know, it's just the slower music, right?
Yes, Hawaiian music, yeah.
Yeah, and then she like went into like Tahitian, Polynesian, like the shit, you know, that stuff. It was amazing, and it was so creative and so neat.
Well, Lola Leminx comes out, and her husband helps her, Aaron, and she's a candy apple with a stem.
Oh my goodness! What?
I mean, with the cellophane.
Yeah.
I mean, she takes the cellophane off. And then she takes a slice of her apple out, and there's seeds on the detail. And I'm telling you, I mean, the value of entertainment you get for your buck is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's original material. It's not a sitcom that you've seen with different actors, different costumes over and over and over.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I went to Dita Von Teese's New Year's Eve show with my fella. It was so fun, you know, like, no, that's so cool. I'm so glad you're doing that and giving them some you know, story in the world.
Yeah, it'll probably be a little longer chapter in my Life in the City of Angels book.
Hey, well, that's awesome. That's so exciting. That's cool. When do you think the City of Angels book is going to come out?
Oh, I don't know. I've been writing it for years now, and I've been
Oh, okay.
photographing things for years. And
Got it.
I want to get Cue the Camels back out there, and
Yep.
I got the contract back. It's mine. I own the title. I sent
Oh,
it in
good.
Congress, the Library of Congress type of thing, and so I
Mhm.
registered it. And it was just, it's not a testosterone driven book at all.
Yeah. Okay.
It's, because Jay told me when he found out that I was writing this about my experiences, and once he knew where I was going, he said, whatever you gotta do, you gotta make it funny. Don't be afraid to make fun of yourself. And I go, okay. so it's, I've had more responses from women readers than I've had from male readers,
Oh, good.
which I find when it was out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I can't
so,
wait to read it. I want to get my hands on a copy. That sounds fun. I can't wait. Yay.
yeah, they sell it on Amazon, but my God, they're so expensive, because I was just charging $20 for it. Now one is like going up in price, and I'm going, wait a minute, who's making the money on this?
Yeah, right. You're like,
I haven't received a dime on this book.
you're like, wait a minute. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I was thinking about pitching it as a series, and it would be sort of like MASH meets The Office. I mean, it just, it's,
Yeah.
The photographers and the audio guys smarter than the correspondents. I've had that experience,
I'd watch that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to get that pitched out there. Oh no, something. Oh my goodness. Well, I could talk to you for hours, and I want to talk to you again when we're not doing a podcast, because that's super fun. And,
Oh, sure.
yeah,
Sure.
it's so great. I was like, gosh, with your social activism and winning awards, and then in and out of retirement for all the good stuff, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it to the world. For so long and in so many ways. It's so cool.
Yeah. Thank you. It's just, I'm just doing what I know to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, I'm gonna give you my last question then. How about that?
Okay.
What? For now. So we were talking earlier, we talked a lot, both, obviously story is important to you, it's important to me, and moments in our lives and sparks. And so my last question is always, if there was a spark or a moment, person, place, or thing, something that you would share with our listeners that really seats you and who you are in this moment, what would that be?
There's actually two of them. Can I answer it that way?
Of course.
Okay. I grew up in Oklahoma, green country, rolling hills, lots of trees and everything. When I was a kid in 1962, 64, I went to see Lawrence of Arabia. I was there all day and all night as a kid. My dad had to come in and get me out of the theater.
Wow.
Because I had no idea what the world looked like at that point. This was before high school. And later, when the photography thing really started taking over, when I was in high school and I was doing these little movies to graduate, Gordon Parks, a photographer, photojournalist.
Okay.
And he did movies, he did photography, but there was a social activism behind his photographs. Gotcha. And that had a big influence on me. Yeah. So
that's cool. I'm gonna have to look him up. I'll put that in the show notes so people can go see it. So that's cool. Oh gosh, do you know Victor Skrybnetsky, who was the photographer who did all the Chicago Film Festival? Like Orson Welles with really dark and Andy
no. I may be familiar with his work, but I may not know who the photographer is. Yeah. There's just so many people I've run across over the years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I have a poster of his hanging in my house. I've had it forever. And recently, because of the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I should try and get him. And unfortunately, he literally just passed away 2 weeks ago because he was 90. And I was like relentlessly bugging them, for the last 6 months. And I realized probably because he was not doing so well, but I really wanted to try and talk to him, Yeah, it was one of those. I was like, rats. But anyway, so yeah. If you're a photographer, you have to know every other photographer, though, right?
No. There's only, nowadays there's so many of them. I know a few, but
I'm teasing you.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorites, though, and it's a TED Talk, is
Oh,
James Natsworth. I probably mispronounced his name, but
oh,
he really put it in good words about the value of the camera as a social activist tool.
ooh,
And I really, you know, I've even taken the script of what he wrote, you know, what he was saying, and I kept it, and I read it on occasion to remind myself just how important this job is that
yeah,
we've given ourselves. You know, it's my responsibility. It's my job to get that abstract issue out there, but in a way that people can relate to it.
yeah. That's cool. See, you had a third. Look at that. Something you read a
Who
lot.
would have guessed?
That's awesome. Well, you're a delight, and thank you again for what you do in the world. It's so inspiring, really. Yeah, and it's super fun to talk to you and your cute dogs.
Yeah, they're out in the yard barking right now, so I got to go get them.
Okay. All right. Well, Dave Banks, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Please stay in touch. You've got my contact. I have your contact information, and we'll chat later then.
We'll do that thing. Yes, absolutely.
We'll have my people call your people.
Okay. Sounds fabulous, darling. Yes.
All right. All right.
Well, thank you, Dave. Everybody, well, that has been another episode of the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And here is to another beautiful day on this big blue spinning sphere. And with wishes that we all stay safe and healthy and big love. Thanks, everybody.